What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the ynggpodcast. As you guys know already, Vladimir Tarasenko is now a member of the Ottawa Senators. He was one of the top five UFAs uh, during this 2023 offseason that has yet to be signed, and he gets signed with the Ottawa Senators. There was a deal in place with the Carolina Hurricanes, and he was represented by his former agency. He had then fired his agency. The deal fell apart, and for weeks after, it was radio silent. We didn't know what was going on in terms of the Tarasenko dossier. Today, we find out that he signs a 1 year, $5 million contract with the Ottawa Senators, and Pierre Dorian's statement says that he's a natural goal scorer. He's a dynamic player who can score from anywhere in the offensive zone, as well as an underrated playmaker who's made a career out of driving offense for him and his line mates. He's an established performer in the regular season and in the playoffs. We're thrilled to add a player of his caliber to our lineup. So we all know that Zach, our newest member of the Youngins podcast, is an Ottawa Senators fan. So we'd like to hear your thoughts on this signing.
I'm completely ecstatic from this move. We touched on it on the Debrincat trade video, where I said that they need to add a player like Tarasenko, his skill set, the void that Debrincat left in the top six. So I'm very happy for this acquisition. And 1 year, $5 million, full no movement clause. There's no risk for this move. He's not going to be trade date at the deadline. He's going to be staying for the full year, a proven year for him. So, he'll be highly motivated. And if we look at his stats over here, projected from Hockey DB, we could see that he had a short stint with the New York Rangers this past year, where he was acquired at the trade deadline. They didn't do too much damage in the playoffs, and you could see with his numbers there, he wasn't producing the same numbers he was in St. Louis. Spent the other half of the year there, but he's 1 year removed from an 82-point season the year prior. So Vladimir Tarasenko still has a lot to give. And if we look over here, the Ottawa Senators line combinations to see where he would slot in, and you would assume he would be on the second line over here with Josh Norris and a Drake Batherson, having the other new acquisition, Dominic Kubalik, moving down to the third with potentially Ridley Gregg and Shane Pinto. So looking at this, it's a really lethal top six. And for Sens fans like myself, it's something to be excited about.
And, just looking at the top six right now, Dominic Kubalik that was acquired in the Alex Debrincat trade. We all know that Debrincat didn't plan on being with the Ottawa Senators a long term. Claude Giroux made that clear in a statement a couple of days ago. They tried to convince him to stay, but ultimately his mind was made up and he wanted to play elsewhere. So, Kubalik, a very serviceable third line player who can move up in the top six. But now with Tarasenko in the mix, it's guaranteed that he's going to be playing a top six role. He's a right winger, so they're going to have to decide whether or not Drake Batherson wants to move to the left wing or Tarasenko moves to the left wing. They're going to have to make some important decisions there. Or maybe even a guy like Claude Giroux could move down to the second line and play left wing, and Tarasenko plays first line with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk. We have yet to find out the line combinations, but anything is up for grabs at this point in terms of the top six and in terms of the winger position. There's a lot of line combos they could try throughout the year. And it's an interesting point that you brought up where Tarasenko, will he be traded at the deadline if the Ottawa Senators are still fighting for a playoff spot, or if they are out of a playoff spot? We don't know what the situation will be moving forward, but I do believe that the Ottawa Senators are going to fight very hard for a playoff spot. They showed so much progress this season and what they could do when they're healthy. And, getting a player like Josh Norris back is definitely going to help. And, once you lose a top sniper, an elite sniper in Alex Debrincat, you bring another one in. And that's exactly what Vladimir Tarasenko provides. And, he's dealt with injuries in the past. So, it's nice to see him healthy these past 2 seasons. And when healthy, look, he's able to get 82 points in 75 games where he scored 34 goals. And this year, with the New York Rangers, 21 points in 31 games, 8 goals and 13 assists, not too shabby. But with the St. Louis Blues, 29 points in 38 games, 10 goals and 19 assists is a lot better. But again, with the New York Rangers, he did what he was asked for. The same thing with Patrick Kane. That maybe opens up the door for Patrick Kane to possibly resign with the New York Rangers now that Tarasenko is gone. So there's a lot up in the air right now. I know there's a lot of New York Ranger fans are not really happy that Tarasenko did not resign with the New York Rangers. At $5 million for 1 year, this could be a prove it contract for Tarasenko where he could use the Ottawa
100%.
Senators to build up some value and sign a long-term deal the year after the season. So 2024 off season, he could fetch a lot more in terms of a long-term deal. He's only 31 years old, so he's still fairly young. Former first-round pick, 16th overall in 2010 draft. So we all know what Tarasenko is capable of bringing. He's a leader. He's won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. He's been in the playoffs many times before. Like Dorian said, he's a playoff performer. He's a regular season performer. He's everything that the Ottawa Senators needed. But for the longest time, we kind of, saw it coming where Debrincat was going to be moved out and they had to replace him in terms of the gold production for the Ottawa Senators. And with this team on the rise and a very young team, and Claude Giroux, nearing the twilight years of his career, obviously this team wants to win now. And Pierre Dorian has been with the Ottawa Senators for quite some time now. So making a move like this makes sense. He was known for having such a great offseason last year. So this year, due to some of the circumstances with the Debrincat situation, he had to get creative, and that's exactly what he did here.
Okay, and I'll ask you this question to kind of get your insight, and then after I'll answer it on my own. But do you think with this move, adding Tarasenko, the Sens are going to be a playoff team this year?
Well, I mean, it all depends on how Tarasenko meshes with the rest of the players. He's a player that, he could play with literally anybody. Like you already know what to expect from him. Put the puck in the net. And looking at the Ottawa Senators lineup here, there's a lot of guys that could distribute the puck to him and vice versa. So I'm not, scared about Tarasenko not fitting in with the Ottawa Senators. The whole thing is, that I'm afraid of is that can Josh Norris stay healthy, and what type of long line combinations can we potentially see that are going to be consistent and stabilized throughout the whole year? Because if you start changing it too much, then players cannot develop chemistry. And also another thing that scares me is the overall team health. If the team is healthy, they could do a lot of damage. If Korpisalo is able to play the way he did with the LA Kings, he was very solid
Yeah,
there.
that's a big one.
So I really hope he's able to play like that, or primetime Korpisalo when he first started the Columbus Blue Jackets, not the Korpisalo we saw after that. There's a lot of question marks up in the air, but I know what to expect from Tarasenko. I think he's going to be a fantastic ad. At least 50 points this year for a player like Tarasenko and what he's able to bring to the Ottawa Senators. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport. Everyone's going to have to do their part if the Ottawa Senators want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and for my perspective, I definitely think that they're going to be pushing for the playoffs, and I'd like to say comfortably that they will be making the playoffs this year. And I look at it this way: after last season, they were 6 points out of a playoff spot, and they wanted to take the next step. and they lose Alex Debrincat via trade. He wanted to go to a hometown team. He didn't want to play in Ottawa. You could have any way you want to put it. He didn't want to be in Ottawa, but they had to replace him and add more. They replace his skill set and his point production to a pretty comparable degree with Tarasenko, but they add the Dominic Kubalik, who's going to help their bottom six, which their bottom six depth, as you know, was a big problem for them last year. They'll get a full year out of Jacob Chikrin, and they'll get Korpisalo, who hopefully, that's the big question mark, right? They signed him for 5 years. Is he gonna be healthy? Are we getting the same Korpisalo are we getting last year? I'd like to assume that they would, based on his health and how, since the beginning of his stint in Columbus, like you mentioned, he was playing so great, and then he was derailed by injuries. But as of last season, it looked like he came back. And if we look at their salary cap situation over here, they're right up against it. And if you look down here, they have Shane Pinto, Igor Sokolov, who are still RFAs, who are unsigned, and then you have everybody else against the cap this year. So a Shane Pinto was probably going to command at least a $2.5-3 million annually, and you would assume that somebody is going to be moved. I would say it's probably a Matthew Joseph. I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Matthew Joseph potentially being on his way out to sign a player like Shane Pinto. They could also look elsewhere in terms of making a move. But with only $32,000 in cap space right now, they're definitely gonna have to do something and try to be creative without hurting the team too much in order to bring back Shane Pinto. And I do believe that Shane Pinto would sign a bridge deal. A fun fact about Tarasenko actually is that he was supposed to be an Ottawa Senator back in 2010 on June 25th. So the Ottawa Senators traded the 16th overall pick
show it right over here.
For David Rundblad. With that pick, the St. Louis Blues selected Tarasenko. Now, 13 years later, we have Tarasenko being an Ottawa Senator. So, he was destined to be an Ottawa Senator at some point.
Yep.
That's the way
it came
looks.
Full circle.
Yeah, it totally did. But guys, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this signing. Is Tarasenko an upgrade on Debrincat, or you think it's a downgrade? You think the Ottawa Senators are a much better team now than they were at the end of the season? Will they make the playoffs, or will they fail to make the playoffs? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Young Guns Podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.